My daughter-in-law spread lies about me on the internet, calling me an old madman to humiliate me in front of everyone. But suddenly a hacker wrote, I know her secrets. Want proof? I made everything public, and now she's begging me to stop. Tears in her eyes, and a day later, she deleted her account. But she had no idea that wasn't the end of it. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My coffee cup slipped through my fingers, ceramic meeting hardwood with a sharp crack that echoed through my quiet home office. The liquid spread across the floor in dark rivulets, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't tear my eyes away from the glowing screen where my daughter-in-law's words burned into my retinas like acid. Sometimes family requires tough love. Gordon's old age senility is getting worse, and his constant neighbor complaints are embarrassing our whole family. Truth hurts, but someone needs to say it. 347 likes, 62 comments of sympathy for poor Inez, dealing with such a difficult father-in-law. My hands trembled as I scrolled through responses from neighbors, acquaintances, people who knew me, people who now thought I was some senile old man causing trouble. I reread the post. Then again, the words didn't change. Inez Shaw, my son's wife, mother of my grandchildren, had just humiliated me in front of the entire neighborhood, online, for everyone to see and judge. What does this mean? The question escaped my lips into the empty room. Morning sunlight streamed through the window beside my desk, illuminating family photos that now felt like mockeries. 3 grandchildren smiling at Christmas. Jasper and Inez at their wedding 5 years ago. My late wife Sarah's gentle face watching from the bookshelf. Senile. The word tasted bitter. At 65, I'd built half the developments in Sunnyvale Springs. My engineering mind remained sharp as ever. Yet here was Inez, 30 years younger, painting me as some confused old fool to justify... What exactly? I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers. Speed dialed her number. 3 rings. 4. Voicemail. Hi, you've reached Inez. I'm probably busy making our community better. Leave a message after the beep. That cheerful voice, so different from the cold calculation behind her post. I waited for the tone. Inez, this is Gordon. Call me immediately. I need explanations. My voice came out rougher than intended. I hung up, stared at the phone, then dialed again. Straight to voicemail this time. She'd seen my name and declined the call. 3rd attempt. Same result. I set the phone down carefully on my desk between the scattered engineering journals and yesterday's mail. My reflection stared back from the black screen. Gray hair slightly disheveled, brown eyes wide with disbelief. When had I become someone my own family could dismiss so easily? The coffee stain spread beneath my chair, seeping into the hardwood grain. I should clean it up. Should do something productive with my morning. Instead, I sat, frozen, processing this betrayal from the person closest to family I had left. My heart, already fragile since the attack 2 years ago, hammered against my ribs. Deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The cardiologist's voice echoed, Stress is your enemy now, Gordon. But how do you avoid stress when your own family ambushes you online? I stood abruptly, chair rolling backward into the wall. Paced to the window overlooking Oak Street. 200 yards down, Inez's modern 2-story house gleamed in the morning sun. Jasper's car sat in their driveway. He was home. Did he know about this post? Had they planned this together over breakfast while I'd been innocently checking my messages? The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 9 times. Thursday morning, May 15th. An ordinary day that had suddenly become extraordinary, in the worst possible way. I walked back to the computer, read the post one final time. The comments had grown. Mrs. Peterson from down the street. Hang in there, honey. Elderly parents can be so difficult. Mr. Rodriguez. You're handling this with such grace, Inez. Grace. They called public humiliation grace. My reflection caught in the window glass, a man I barely recognized. Not senile, not confused, but definitely angry. The kind of slow-burning anger that had driven me through 40 years of construction deadlines and difficult clients. The kind that got things built, got problems solved, got revenge served properly. I closed the laptop with deliberate care. Whatever game Inez wanted to play, she'd just taught me the rules. The walk from my office to the living room felt longer than usual, each step weighted with growing understanding. I sank into my leather recliner, Sarah's last gift before the cancer took her, and pressed my palms against my temples. The Facebook post wasn't random cruelty, it was calculated retaliation. Yesterday, the parking rule argument. The memory crystallized with painful clarity. I'd been washing my car in the driveway when Inez appeared with her clipboard and official HOA badge, looking every inch the self-appointed neighborhood authority she'd become. Gordon, these rules are for everyone. 2 cars maximum per driveway. Her voice had carried that particular tone she used when explaining things to people she considered beneath her understanding. I'd straightened, garden hose still in hand. This is ridiculous, Inez. I have 3 grandchildren who visit on weekends. Where exactly do you expect Jasper to park when they bring both kids' car seats? Rules are rules. She'd clicked her pen with practiced authority. The community voted. Excess vehicles create visual clutter and reduce property values. Visual clutter? These are family visits, not a used car lot. Her smile had turned brittle. Perhaps you should consider that some behaviors affect the entire neighborhood's reputation. We're trying to maintain standards here. The implied criticism had stung then. Now, reading between the lines of her post, I understood the deeper message. She'd wanted me to back down publicly, accept her authority without question. When I'd refused, she'd escalated to humiliation warfare. I rose from the chair, walked to the front window. Inez's house dominated the view, all sharp angles and expensive landscaping, a monument to her social ambitions. The HOA president plaque beside her front door caught the morning light like a badge of honor. She'd underestimated me badly. So this is revenge, I said aloud to the empty room. Fine, Inez, let's play this game. But could I really fight my son's wife? Jasper had chosen his side yesterday when I'd challenged the parking rule. He'd emerged from their house as the argument escalated, positioning himself slightly behind Inez like a supporting actor in her drama. Dad, maybe we can find a compromise, he'd offered weakly. The compromise is following established community guidelines, Inez had interjected before I could respond. Everyone else manages just fine. Jasper had nodded agreement, my own son nodding along to his wife's dismissal of his father's concerns. The betrayal had cut deeper than Inez's condescension, though I'd hidden it behind engineering pragmatism. Now, staring at their house through my window, I felt the pieces clicking together, like blueprint specifications. Inez ruled through social pressure and manufactured authority. She'd turned my neighborhood resistance into ammunition for broader character assassination. Every future disagreement would reference this post. Remember how difficult Gordon can be? Brilliant in its cruel efficiency. My phone buzzed against the coffee table. Text message from an unknown number. Saw Inez's post. Hang in there, Gordon. Some of us know better. Martin Keller. Martin from 3 houses down. IT specialist. Quiet guy who'd always seemed annoyed by HOA overreach. Interesting that he'd reached out directly rather than commenting publicly. Smart man. I pocketed the phone and grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter. Enough analysis. Time for direct action. The walk to Inez's house would take 3 minutes at my usual pace. Long enough to plan my approach, short enough to arrive while my anger remained controlled and purposeful. I'd spent decades managing construction sites, dealing with difficult clients and unreasonable demands. This was just another problem requiring the right tools and proper strategy. I locked my front door with deliberate care. The morning air tasted crisp, carrying hints of jasmine from Mrs. Chen's garden and exhaust from the school bus route. Normal neighborhood sounds continuing while my world shifted on its axis. 100 yards, 200 yards. Inez's driveway appeared ahead, Jasper's sedan still parked beside her white SUV. Both cars perfectly positioned within the approved boundaries she'd so recently enforced on my family visits. The irony wasn't lost on me. I climbed their front steps, noting the pristine condition of everything: power-washed concrete, spotless windows, magazine-worthy flower arrangements, the kind of perfection that required constant maintenance and absolute control. My finger hovered over their doorbell. Once I pressed it, there would be no backing down. No pretending I hadn't seen the post. No maintaining family peace through strategic silence. I pressed the button and heard the melodic chimes echo inside their house. Footsteps approached from inside, measured and unhurried. The door opened to reveal Inez in her morning perfection. Pressed khakis, spotless white blouse, hair styled as if she'd been awake for hours rather than 30 minutes. Her expression shifted from mild curiosity to practiced concern. "Oh, Gordon, what brings you here so early?" The innocent tone matched her tilted head perfectly. An Academy Award performance. "You know exactly why I'm here." I kept my voice level, controlled. "Delete that post." Her eyebrows rose in manufactured confusion. "What post? I share lots of community updates. Which one concerns you?" The gaslighting attempt was almost admirable in its boldness. I stepped closer to the threshold, close enough to see the calculation behind her wide eyes. "The one about my supposed senility and embarrassing complaints? The one with 347 likes as of 20 minutes ago." "Oh, that?" She waved a dismissive hand. "Gordon, I'm just sharing my honest thoughts about family challenges. Surely you support free speech." "Free speech doesn't include defamation." "Defamation?" Her laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "I simply expressed concern about your recent behavior patterns. Truth hurts sometimes, but ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear." Heat rose in my chest, but I maintained steady eye contact. "Delete it. Now." "I don't think that's necessary. The community deserves honest communication from their HOA leadership." Movement behind her caught my attention. Jasper appeared in the hallway, wearing yesterday's clothes and an expression of resigned defeat. My son looked 10 years older than his 38 years. "Dad, let's talk calmly," he said, stepping beside his wife. "Not between us, beside her." The positioning spoke volumes. "Calmly?" I shifted my gaze to include him. "Your wife just publicly humiliated me online, and you want calm discussion?" Jasper's shoulders sagged. "She's concerned about the neighborhood dynamics. Maybe there's some truth to... To what? That I'm senile? That I cause embarrassing complaints?" My voice rose despite my efforts. "I challenged one unreasonable parking rule, Jasper. One." Inez placed a protective hand on my son's arm. "Gordon, this reaction rather proves my point about emotional regulation challenges." The manipulation was breathtaking. She'd provoked this confrontation, then used my natural response as evidence supporting her original claims. A perfect circular trap. "Clever," I said, stepping back from their doorway. "Very clever indeed." Something in my tone made Jasper straighten. Even Inez's confident smile faltered slightly. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. I looked at my son one final time. 40 years ago, I'd held him as a baby, taught him to ride bicycles, helped with homework, paid for his college education. Now he stood behind his wife like a bodyguard protecting her from his own father. "It means you've taught me something valuable today, Inez." I backed down their front steps slowly, deliberately. "You've shown me exactly who you are, both of you." "Dad, don't be dramatic," Jasper called after me. I paused at the edge of their driveway, turned back to face them framed in their perfect doorway. "Truth hurts," you said. "We'll see who hurts in the end." The walk home felt different than the journey over. My steps carried purpose now instead of anger, strategy instead of emotion. Inez had declared war using weapons she thought I couldn't match. Social media, community opinion, family loyalty. She was about to learn how much she'd underestimated a 65-year-old engineer with 40 years of problem-solving experience and absolutely nothing left to lose. The morning sun climbed higher as I approached my house, casting long shadows across the suburban landscape. Behind me, I heard their front door close with a decisive click. Soon Inez would be checking her phone, counting new likes and supportive comments, basking in the glow of community sympathy. Let her enjoy it while it lasted. I climbed my front steps and unlocked the door, already formulating the first phase of my response. The coffee stain in my office would need cleaning, but that could wait. More pressing tasks required my immediate attention. Time to show Inez Shaw what happened when you picked a fight with someone who'd spent decades turning impossible blueprints into finished buildings. Time to construct her downfall with the same methodical precision I'd once used to erect skyscrapers. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Oak Street, as I retraced my steps home, each footfall deliberate, despite the weight pressing against my chest. 200 yards had never felt so vast. Behind me, Inez's house gleamed with its manufactured perfection, while ahead my modest, single-story home waited like a refuge. I unlocked the front door with steady hands, though my mind churned with fragments of the confrontation. Jasper's weak voice echoing support for his wife. Inez's calculated innocence, the way she'd turned my natural reaction into evidence supporting her claims. My library called to me, the one room Sarah had insisted remain untouched after her passing. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls, filled with engineering texts, classic literature, and photo albums chronicling 40 years of marriage. I selected Steinbeck's East of Eden from its familiar spot, the worn leather binding soft beneath my fingers. The leather reading chair embraced me like an old friend. I opened the book to a random page, seeking escape in Steinbeck's measured prose about family betrayal and redemption. The irony wasn't lost on me. 35 years I built this family, I whispered to the empty room. After Mary's death, I thought, at least the children... But the words on the page blurred together. My mind refused to process Steinbeck's wisdom when my own family drama demanded attention. I closed the book, resting it on my lap. Through the library window, Inez's house remained visible in the distance. She was probably inside right now, crafting her next social media performance, building sympathy while painting me as an unstable old man whose own son couldn't manage him. She thinks I'm a helpless old man? The question hung in the air. She's mistaken. I stood, pacing between the bookshelves where Sarah's photograph watched from the mantel. She'd been gone 3 years, but her voice echoed clearly. Gordon, you've never backed down from a real fight. Don't start now. My wife would have seen through Inez's manipulation immediately, would have called it out at the first family dinner, probably with that sharp wit that could cut through pretense like a blade. But Sarah wasn't here to protect our son from his poor choices. Jasper, my own son. Where is your conscience? The question tasted bitter. 40 years of teaching him right from wrong, of modeling integrity through every construction project and community involvement. Yet when faced with choosing between his wife's lies and his father's truth, he'd positioned himself as her ally. That betrayal cut deeper than Inez's public humiliation. I returned to the window, studying the distance between our homes, close enough for family dinners, far enough for Inez to craft her narratives without immediate consequence, until today. If they want to play games... The doorbell's melodic chime interrupted my planning. 3 measured notes that seemed oddly urgent for late afternoon. I glanced at the clock. Nearly 5. Who would visit at this hour? I walked from the library to the front door, my steps cautious. Through the peephole, Martin Keller stood on my doorstep, hands clasped behind his back like a man with serious business. Interesting timing. Martin! I opened the door wider. Unexpected, but welcome. Saw your daughter-in-law's post earlier? His voice carried genuine sympathy mixed with something else. Purpose. Sorry, but that's completely unfair to you. At least someone sees the truth. I stepped aside, gesturing him into the living room. Coffee? Though I warn you, it's been a difficult day. No thanks. Martin settled into the wing-back chair across from my sofa, his movements precise. Gordon, I came because I have something more serious to discuss. About Inez. She's been stealing money from the HOA. The words hit like a physical blow. I sank onto the sofa, studying Martin's earnest face. What do you mean, exactly? Evidence. He produced a manila folder from inside his jacket, holding it like precious cargo. $12,500 last year alone. Want to take a closer look? My engineer's mind immediately began calculating implications. Theft from a homeowners association meant fraud, embezzlement, potential criminal charges. It also meant leverage. Are you absolutely certain about this? Martin's smile held no humor. I requested financial reports under the Davis-Sterling Act, standard homeowner rights. But I also have other methods of verification. The way he said other methods suggested capabilities beyond simple document requests. IT specialists often possess skills that blurred legal boundaries. What kind of evidence are we discussing? Receipts? Bank transfers? Email correspondence? Martin's fingers drummed against the folder. Travel expenses that were actually personal vacations. Shopping sprees charged to community improvement. Fake maintenance bills for work that never happened. Each revelation built momentum like a gathering storm. How much detail do you have? Everything needed to prove intent and pattern. The question becomes, what are you planning to do with this information? I leaned forward, my analytical mind racing through possibilities. Public exposure would destroy Inez's carefully constructed image. Legal action could result in criminal charges. Either path would demonstrate that underestimating Gordon Shaw carried consequences. I need to see everything first, make informed decisions. Martin nodded approvingly. Smart approach. Can you come by my place around 8 tonight? I'll show you the complete picture. Your house? 130 Oak Street. 3 houses down from yours, toward the main road. He stood, tucking the folder back inside his jacket. Fair warning. What I'll show you goes beyond simple document requests. Some information required. Creative approaches to obtain. The implication hung between us like smoke. Martin had crossed ethical lines to gather evidence against Inez. Professional boundaries blurred when community justice demanded action. Why are you doing this, Martin? Same reason you challenged that parking rule. His expression hardened. Someone needs to stand up to her bullying. The difference is I have tools she doesn't know about. After Martin left, I remained in the living room as evening shadows lengthened. The folder's brief appearance had changed everything. This morning I'd been a humiliated grandfather, publicly embarrassed by family betrayal. Tonight I might possess weapons capable of destroying my daughter-in-law's reign. The irony was delicious. Inez had triggered this confrontation with her Facebook post, seeking to humiliate me into submission. Instead, she'd awakened something far more dangerous, a determined engineer with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. 8 o'clock couldn't arrive fast enough. At 7:50, I locked my front door and walked toward Martin's house, anticipation building with each step. The evening air carried hints of jasmine and barbecue smoke from neighboring yards where normal families enjoyed peaceful dinners. My own dinner sat untouched in the kitchen, appetite consumed by strategic thinking. Martin answered on the first knock, leading me through a modest living room into what could only be described as a technological command center. 3 large monitors dominated a custom desk, flanked by server towers that hummed with electronic purpose. Cable management systems kept dozens of connections organized with military precision. Welcome to Mission Control, Martin said with dry humor. Officially, I work in IT security. Unofficially, I ensure justice finds its way to those who abuse power. Impressive setup. I studied the screens displaying financial spreadsheets, email archives, and what appeared to be bank records. This represents considerable investment. Knowledge is the ultimate currency. Martin gestured toward a second chair, especially when dealing with people who think they're untouchable. He clicked through documents with practiced efficiency, narrating each revelation. Travel expenses, $4,200. Here's Inez's Instagram from Cabo last month. Same dates as this HOA conference expense report. The evidence was damning. Photos of Inez sipping cocktails on pristine beaches, tagged locations matching fabricated business trips, shopping receipts totaling $3,800 charged to community supplies, maintenance invoices for repairs that neighborhood contractors confirmed never happened. Personal dining expenses, $1,000. Martin pulled up restaurant receipts. Notice the dates. All weekend dinners with Jasper. Romantic evenings funded by neighbor contributions. 15 different violations. 10 supporting receipts. 5 email confirmations. I counted methodically. Is this sufficient for legal action? More than sufficient. Martin printed pages as we reviewed them, building a comprehensive file. The question becomes strategy. Legal proceedings take months, cost money, and might result in plea bargains. Public exposure achieves immediate results. What do you recommend? Martin's fingers paused over the keyboard. Depends on your goals, punishment, justice, removal from HOA leadership. Each path requires different approaches. I studied the evidence scattered across his desk, tangible proof of systematic theft from our community. I want her authority destroyed, permanently. Then we coordinate maximum impact. Martin handed me a complete folder, thick with documentation. Everything's included. Bank records, receipts, email chains, even analysis showing patterns of escalation. The weight of the folder felt substantial, like holding dynamite with a lit fuse. How did you obtain bank records? Officially, Freedom of Information requests and HOA financial transparency requirements. Martin's smile carried mischief. Unofficially, sometimes security systems have vulnerabilities that responsible citizens should report. You hacked her accounts. I performed security assessments that revealed concerning financial irregularities. His tone remained carefully neutral. How I discovered problems matters less than addressing them appropriately. I appreciated his discretion while understanding the implications. Martin had risked legal consequences to gather evidence against Inez. His commitment to justice exceeded my initial assumptions. What about Jasper? Does he know? No evidence suggests your son's involvement. Martin pulled up email logs. Communications show Inez handling all financial decisions independently. Jasper appears genuinely unaware. Relief flooded through me. Whatever else my son had done, he wasn't complicit in theft. The betrayal was Inez's alone. When do we act? Martin checked his watch. I recommend waiting until morning. Plan your approach carefully. Once this information becomes public, there's no controlling the aftermath. I stood, folders secured under my arm like a battle plan. Outside Martin's house, the neighborhood seemed different somehow, quieter, more charged with possibility. I walked home through gathering darkness, my mind racing with strategic options. Inez thought she'd humiliated me into submission with her Facebook post. Instead, she'd provided motivation for something far more devastating. By tomorrow evening, her carefully constructed authority would lie in ruins, destroyed by the same social networks she'd weaponized against me. The student was about to become the teacher. Morning light streamed through my office window as I spread Martin's evidence across my desk like a general planning battle strategy. Receipts, bank statements, email printouts, each document a weapon in my arsenal. I'd spent the night reviewing every detail, cross-referencing dates, building an irrefutable case. My smartphone camera captured each piece of evidence with methodical precision. Travel receipts showing Inez's Cabo vacation charged as HOA conference expenses. Shopping sprees at luxury boutiques listed as community supplies. Restaurant bills for romantic dinners with Jasper funded by neighborhood contributions. The Facebook app opened to my profile page, a platform I'd rarely used until yesterday's humiliation. Now it would serve as my courtroom, with 200 neighborhood families as jury. Neighbors, I typed. I must show you the truth about our HOA leader. My fingers moved steadily across the screen, crafting each sentence with engineering precision. No emotional outbursts, no personal attacks, just facts, figures, and photographic proof. Here's evidence of $12,500 stolen from our community funds over the past year. Travel receipts showing personal vacations charged as business expenses. Shopping sprees for luxury items listed as community supplies. Fake maintenance bills for repairs that never happened. I attached the photographs methodically. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers. Receipts with damning details. Email chains revealing Inez's casual attitude toward community money. Each image told part of a larger story of systematic theft. Every dollar came from your HOA dues, money meant for neighborhood improvements, emergency repairs, and community services. Instead, it funded personal vacations, designer handbags, and romantic dinners. The post grew longer as I added context, timeline, and specific examples. This wasn't Facebook drama. This was evidence presentation that would stand up in court if necessary. I reviewed the text one final time, ensuring accuracy and professional tone. Then I clicked Publish. The post appeared instantly on my timeline. I refreshed the page, watching the first reactions appear within seconds. Mrs. Patterson from Elm Street. Finally, someone spoke the truth? Mr. Rodriguez. We suspected this for months. Comments multiplied rapidly. Like counts climbed. Share notifications pinged continuously. Within 10 minutes, my phone buzzed with messages from neighbors expressing support, outrage at Inez's actions, and gratitude for my courage in exposing the truth. Thank you, Gordon, appeared repeatedly in various forms. How did she think she'd get away with this? We need new HOA leadership immediately. I leaned back in my chair, watching justice unfold in real time. Yesterday morning, I'd been a humiliated grandfather accused of senility. Today, I was the neighborhood hero who'd exposed corruption and theft. Yes, truth really does hurt, Inez, I whispered to my computer screen. The satisfaction felt better than any construction project completion, any engineering problem solved. This was personal vindication paired with community service, protecting neighbors from continued exploitation while restoring my own reputation. My phone displayed 43 comments, 67 likes, and 21 shares. The evidence was spreading through the neighborhood faster than wildfire. By noon, everyone would know exactly who Inez Shaw really was. Aggressive pounding erupted at my front door, rattling the frame with violent intensity. The pounding continued as I walked calmly from my office to the front door, each thunderous knock confirming that my post had found its target. Through the peephole, Inez's flushed face contorted with rage, while Jasper stood slightly behind her, looking like a man facing execution. I opened the door without haste, meeting Inez's wild eyes with steady calm. "You destroyed my reputation," she shrieked, pushing past me into the hallway. "I'll sue you for libel." "For what? For publishing the truth?" I closed the door and gestured toward the living room. "Please, come in. Let's discuss this rationally." Jasper followed his wife with reluctant steps, his face pale with something between embarrassment and shock. "Dad, you went too far this time." "Did I?" I settled into my favorite armchair while Inez paced like a caged animal. "Your wife stole $12,000 from our neighbors, Jasper. Exactly how far is too far when exposing theft?" "Prove it!" Inez spun toward me, her voice cracking with desperation. "You can't prove any of those accusations." I smiled with the confidence of a man holding royal flush cards. "I already proved it. The whole neighborhood now knows about your Cabo vacation charged as conference expenses, the designer handbags purchased with community improvement funds, the fake maintenance bills for repairs that never happened. Those were legitimate expenses." But her voice lacked conviction, and her eyes darted toward Jasper for support that didn't come. "Sue me with what money?" I continued pleasantly. "The money you stole from the HOA treasury? I'm sure the district attorney will find that interesting when neighbors start filing complaints." Jasper stepped between us, his hands raised in futile mediation. "Let's talk about this calmly. Think about the family, Dad." "I'm thinking about family." My voice hardened slightly. "That's exactly why I'm doing this. You think I'd let her steal from your children's neighbors? From elderly people on fixed incomes who trusted her with their money?" "Went too far?" I stood, towering over my son. "Your wife publicly humiliated me yesterday, calling me senile and embarrassing. She thought I was helpless. Turns out she was mistaken." Inez's breathing came in sharp gasps, her perfectly styled appearance crumbling under pressure. "This isn't over. I have lawyers. I have connections." "You have theft charges coming," I replied evenly. "Bank records don't lie, Inez. Neither do credit card statements or falsified invoices. Martin documented everything beautifully." "Martin?" Her face went white. "What does Martin have to do with this?" "Everything." I sat back down, projecting complete control. "Turns out other neighbors noticed your spending patterns too. Amazing what IT professionals can discover when they set their minds to it." Jasper looked between his wife and father with growing comprehension. "Inez, is this true? Did you really take money from the HOA?" Her silence spoke volumes. No denials now, no righteous indignation, just cornered desperation. "She thought she was untouchable," I explained to my son. "Thought no one would question the sweet young HOA president. Thought her victims were too polite or too old to fight back." "You'll regret this." Inez's final threat sounded hollow. I reached for the phone on the side table, my movement deliberate and meaningful. "If you appear here with threats again, I'll file harassment charges to go with the theft investigation." The gesture of reaching for the telephone created instant silence. Both Inez and Jasper understood the implications. One call would bring police, reports, official investigations that would make this morning's social media exposure seem gentle. "You can't be serious," Inez whispered, but her bravado had evaporated completely. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." I held the receiver without dialing, letting the threat hang in the air. Yesterday you thought you could humiliate an old man into submission. Today you discover what happens when that old man fights back with facts instead of fiction. Jasper's shoulders sagged with the weight of revelation. Dad, there has to be another way. Think about the grandchildren. I raised you better than this, Jasper. My disappointment cut through the room like winter wind. I taught you right from wrong, honesty from deception. Your wife is a thief who stole from our community, and you're asking me to cover it up for family harmony? But the scandal? The scandal is your wife's creation, not mine. I set the phone back in its cradle, the action somehow more threatening than holding it. I simply provided evidence of crimes already committed. Inez backed toward the hallway, her retreat instinctive and defeated. This isn't over, Gordon. I have rights. I have options. You have the right to remain silent, I replied with grim humor. You have the option to resign from HOA leadership before the board votes you out. You have the choice to make restitution before criminal charges are filed. Criminal charges? Jasper's voice cracked. Embezzlement is a felony, son. Your wife didn't steal $20 from a petty cash box. She systematically looted community funds for personal luxury. Bank records prove premeditation and pattern. The legal reality hit them both simultaneously. Inez's face drained of remaining color, while Jasper stared at his wife with dawning horror. When you're ready to choose right from wrong, I continued, you know where to find me. Until then, I suggest you focus on damage control and legal representation. They moved toward the front door like sleepwalkers, their confident arrival transformed into shameful retreat. Inez's designer heels clicked against my hardwood floor, shoes probably purchased with stolen HOA funds. At the threshold, Jasper turned back one final time. Dad, I never knew. Now you do. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to fatherly concern mixed with steel. The question becomes what you're going to do with that knowledge. The door closed behind them with satisfying finality. I turned the deadbolt, sealing myself inside with the sweet silence of justice served. Through the front window, I watched them walk toward their car. Inez stumbling slightly, Jasper's protective hand on her elbow. More prison guard than devoted husband. My phone buzzed with another flood of supportive messages. The neighborhood was rallying around truth, exactly as I'd hoped. Mrs. Chen had posted her own comment. Gordon Shaw has more integrity in his little finger than some people have in their entire bodies. I returned to my office where evidence photos still glowed on my computer screen. The morning's work was complete. Inez's authority lay in ruins, her reputation destroyed by her own actions and my methodical exposure. The community she'd exploited now understood exactly who she really was. Finally, peace, I whispered to the quiet house. But this was just the beginning. Social media exposure was merely the opening salvo. Legal consequences, HOA board actions, and community healing would follow. Today I'd proven that underestimating Gordon Shaw carried steep prices. The old engineer still had plenty of fight left. Morning coffee tasted different somehow, richer, more satisfying than it had in months. I settled at my computer desk, steam rising from my favorite mug, while sunlight streamed through windows that seemed cleaner, brighter than before. Yesterday's confrontation had left me with the deep sleep of a man whose conscience was clear. Facebook opened to reveal a digital battlefield transformed into a victory celebration. My evidence post had exploded overnight, at 27 likes, 53 comments, 31 shares. The entire neighborhood had weighed in with unified support. "Heroic work, Gordon," wrote Mrs. Patterson from Elm Street. "Long overdue," added Tom Rodriguez. "She fooled all of us for too long, but you saw through her manipulation," contributed Elena Chen, whose husband had mentioned Inez's arbitrary rule enforcement for months. I scrolled through comment after comment of validation. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. We should have listened to our instincts about her. Finally, someone with backbone in this neighborhood. The angry face reactions weren't directed at me. They expressed community outrage at Inez's documented theft. Neighbors who'd never spoken publicly were sharing their own stories of her excessive regulations, suspicious spending, and condescending attitude toward longtime residents. 50 comments overnight, I murmured to the empty room. The entire neighborhood is against her. My fingers clicked through to Inez's profile. curiosity compelling me to see her response. The search yielded a stark message: user not found. Her profile had vanished completely. Account not found. I tried alternative spellings, nickname variations. Nothing. Ran away like a rat from a sinking ship. The digital retreat spoke volumes. When faced with irrefutable evidence and community condemnation, Inez had chosen complete withdrawal rather than attempted defense. She knew the evidence was genuine, knew any public response would only deepen her humiliation. Martin's early morning text appeared on my phone. Profile deletion confirmed. Total social media blackout. Also getting calls about emergency HOA meeting. You've triggered something bigger than Facebook drama. I leaned back in my chair, processing the completeness of my victory. Not only had I exposed Inez's crimes and restored my reputation, I'd catalyzed genuine community action. Neighbors were demanding accountability, transparency, fundamental changes to prevent future exploitation. Through my window, I could see other houses along Oak Street. Normal families starting normal days, but with newfound awareness of corruption that had infected their community for months. My engineering precision had exposed the structural flaws in their HOA leadership. Sometimes the truth is the most powerful weapon, I said aloud, thinking of Sarah's voice encouraging me through difficult construction projects. Mary would have been proud of me for standing up to bullies. My phone buzzed with another supportive message, this time from a neighbor I'd barely spoken to in years. The evidence post was creating connections, rebuilding community trust that Inez's manipulations had systematically damaged. I stood from my chair, stretching muscles that felt more relaxed than they had since this ordeal began. The morning held promise, not just personal vindication, but genuine community healing. Martin deserved proper thanks for making this justice possible. The walk to Martin's house carried different energy than previous trips down Oak Street. Neighbors working in their yards looked up with respectful nods instead of polite but distant acknowledgments. Mrs. Henderson actually waved from her flower garden, calling out, "Beautiful morning, Gordon." At 130 Oak Street, I carried a six-pack of quality craft beer, inadequate payment for Martin's crucial assistance, but gesture of genuine appreciation. The doorbell chimed 3 notes before Martin appeared, his expression immediately brightening. "Perfect timing," he said, accepting the beer with a grateful smile. "Just finished reading 20 new messages from neighbors. Let's talk in the backyard. More privacy for celebrating our success." His backyard offered comfortable sanctuary under mature oak trees that provided natural screening from neighboring houses. We settled into sturdy wooden chairs around a circular table that spoke of many similar conversations about community issues. "Martin, without you, I never could have done this." I opened my beer, watching condensation form on the cold bottle. "The evidence you provided was perfect, unshakable." "Justice always prevails when good people help each other," he replied, raising his bottle in informal toast. "You had the courage to use the information properly. That took real character." "I owe you a significant debt." Martin's laugh carried genuine warmth. "The debt is paid by seeing Inez's manipulation exposed. Look at this." He produced his phone, scrolling through messages. "People are calling you a neighborhood hero. Mrs. Henderson wants to nominate you for HOA president." The phone screen displayed enthusiasm from neighbors I'd known for years, but rarely connected with meaningfully. "Finally, someone we can trust," read one message. "Gordon Shaw represents everything our community should value," stated another. "What about criminal charges?" I asked, engineer's mind focusing on practical consequences. "That's police business now. We did our part." Martin's expression grew serious. "The district attorney will have to decide about prosecution. $12,000 constitutes felony embezzlement under California law, but plea bargains happen. Civil suits are more certain. Individual neighbors can recover damages directly." "And HOA leadership?" "Emergency meetings scheduled for this weekend. Neighbors are already requesting leadership change." Martin checked his phone again. "Unanimous removal vote seems likely. The financial audit will reveal additional irregularities. Guarantees she never holds community position again." The implications settled over our conversation like morning mist. Inez faced not only social ostracism, but potential criminal prosecution, civil lawsuits, and permanent exclusion from neighborhood leadership. Justice was progressing through proper legal channels I'd initiated, with strategic evidence presentation. Sometimes good people need to help each other, Martin repeated, echoing his earlier sentiment. You provided the courage, I provided the technical skills. Together we protected our community from continued exploitation. His phone buzzed with an incoming call. HOA Board Secretary, he announced, checking the caller ID. They're moving fast on this. 2 months of California summer had transformed my garden into Sarah's vision, roses blooming in careful arrangements she'd planned years before her death. I sat among the flowers on July 17th, official documents spread across the wrought iron table like evidence of justice completed. The first letter arrived that morning with HOA letterhead and formal language. Inez Shaw has been permanently removed from all board positions due to financial irregularities and violation of fiduciary duties. A complete audit revealed 15,140 centavos in misappropriated funds over 18 months. Legal correspondence followed, 20 individual civil lawsuits filed by neighbors seeking restitution plus damages. The criminal investigation had yielded plea bargain, guilty to misdemeanor embezzlement, 1-year probation, full restitution ordered. Inez avoided jail time but faced permanent criminal record and social exile. Walking past 145 Oak Street earlier that week, I'd noticed the for sale sign planted in their manicured lawn like a white flag of surrender. Jasper and Inez were leaving Sunnyvale Springs permanently, unable to face daily reminders of their humiliation. The house that once symbolized their social dominance now represented complete defeat. "Gordon!" Mrs. Patterson called from her driveway. "Thank you again for saving our neighborhood. The new board is working wonderfully. Complete transparency, reasonable rules, actual community improvement." Similar encounters had become routine. Neighbors expressing gratitude, sharing previously hidden frustrations with Inez's arbitrary regulations, celebrating restored community harmony. The emergency HOA meeting had resulted in unanimous leadership change, new bylaws requiring financial oversight, an election of board members committed to actual service rather than power accumulation. Martin had been elected treasurer, his technical skills and proven integrity making him obvious choice for financial oversight. I declined nomination for president, preferring advisory role that utilized my engineering experience without consuming retirement peace. In my garden, surrounded by Sarah's roses and afternoon sunlight, I reflected on justice's complex mathematics. Inez faced appropriate consequences for systematic theft and community manipulation. The neighborhood had learned valuable lessons about accountability and transparency. Leadership based on service rather than ego was slowly rebuilding trust. But Jasper remained collateral damage, a son caught between loyalty to criminal wife and respect for principled father. We hadn't spoken since the confrontation, though Martin mentioned seeing him at coffee shops, looking older, sadder, processing the magnitude of his wife's deceptions. "Justice has been served," I whispered to Sarah's memory, touching soil where her favorite yellow roses thrived. Maybe someday Jasper will understand. Maybe someday he'll remember the values I tried to teach him. The garden offered perfect peace, no dramatic confrontations, no social media battles, no legal proceedings, just growth, renewal, and quiet satisfaction of principles upheld despite personal cost. Sometimes doing right means losing people you love, but character matters more than popularity, truth more than convenience. Sarah would have understood that choice, would have supported the principled stand that restored our community's integrity. Evening shadows lengthened across the neighborhood where justice had found its way home. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.